Hello, on this video I'm going to show you how to update a record on a database. From the past video I had something like this, a index, post to a page to, and then a link to edit person. But the edit person only collected information from the user. It did not actually update the database. So for this video I'm going to update the record on the database, and then I'm going to send the user back to page 2. So this is the project from my past video, and all we have to do now is implement the update person. So just like I did in the past, I'm going to create a DAO person object, and now I'm going to call a method that doesn't exist on the DAO person. Now, because this method doesn't exist, it gives me an error, and I'm going to show potential fixes here, and I'm going to generate the method. So now if I go to the DAO person, the method got generated for me. So back to the home controller, I have the person, but I do not have the ID because the ID is stored on the session. I need to get the user ID from the session, and for that I'm just gonna copy this whole line here and I'm gonna paste it here. Now I have the user ID. I need to set into the person, and now the person object is completed with the data that comes from the view and the user ID that comes from the session. And now I can finally work on this update user. So I'm going to right click and go to implementation, and it takes me there. And to update the user, we're going to do the 4 steps again. And because I already did the 4 steps on this method, I'm just going to copy here the 4 steps. And then I'm going to paste it right here. But these 4 steps are for a select, and I want a update. Now, every time I want a query, instead of just writing here, I go to SQL Server Management Studio and I create the query there, test it, and then I copy and paste it here in my code. So let's go to the SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm going to right click on the table and then update to new query editor. So this is the query to update a person. So set name equals something. I'm going to put here Alex. And it's very important here to know the where clause. So where ID equals a number. I'm going to put 10 here, hoping that there is a 10 on the database. So 0 rows affected, that means there is no 10. So I'm going to put something over there. So Alex lives in Chicago and the ID is 41. Now back to my query. The ID is now 41. So Alex was in Chicago, and after I run the query, this should be Seattle. So run the query. 1 row affected, that's good. Back here. The city now goes to Seattle. So that tells me that this query works, and I like to copy in 1 line only. So I'm going to copy this entire line, and I'm going to go back to the code. And now I can paste right here. So, but now there are a couple of things here that I would like to change. One is the ID. If I leave it like that, it's always going to update the record where the ID is 41. So I want to put a parameter right here. And the same thing with the name and the city. And now I can change the parameter, the name, and the values person name, and then I want the same line but with city this time. And then finally, I want the same line again, but this time I want with the ID. And step number 2 is now complete. So step number 3, there used to be a reader right here, but reader is when you want something back. In this case, when you update, you just send something to the database. So because I do not want anything back, I'm going to delete everything here. And all I need is cmd, the command dot execute non-query. So that's all for the update user. Now let's go back to the home controller. And now I want to return the view. But if you look right here in the Solution Explorer, there is no view for update person. However, there is a page 2 receives a person object and then just prints it on the view. So for the update person action, instead of returning the view for the updates, I want to return the page 2 view. Now, if you go right here in the return view, I can see here that there are 4 overloads method for view. And if I go to the arrow down, and the 4th one, which we are very interested, returns the view name and a object model. In other words, we can return the view of the page 2 and also pass a object model there. So let's use this one. So I want to return a string and a object. So the string is the name of the view you want to go to. So I want to go to page 2, and then I want to pass the person model to the view. So let's run this program. Jane lives in Chicago. Submit. Jane Chicago, edit my info. Jane now is going to move to Houston. Submit, and we get a problem. So let's look what the problem is. So right here it says the problem is on the DAO person, line 91. And also tells me here there is a throw not implemented exception. And I think I know what this is. Whenever Visual Studio creates a method for you, he always throws a not implemented exception. And I think I forgot to remove. So let's go to the DAO person CS line 91 and see what's happening over there. So DAO person line 91, and sure enough, I forgot to remove this line. So I'm going to delete this line. And let's run again. And Jane now lives in Austin. Submit. Edit Jane's information. Jane is going to move to Seattle. Submit. And Jane is now in Seattle. And we're back on page 2. Even though right here in the browser it says update person. And that's fine. So we can edit the information again. So Jane now is going to live in Miami. Jane was tired of the rain. And now Jane is in Miami. Edit info. And now Jane can live in Chicago again. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. This is easy and you can do it.